Ladies and gentlemen, I'm calling this meeting to order. This is the Laredo Urban Transportation Study, otherwise known as the MPO, otherwise known as the Metropolitan Planning Organization Policy Committee. We're meeting here at the City Council Chambers at 1110 Houston Street in Laredo, Texas. Today is January 21st, 2020, and it's 1:39 p.m. Yes, could we have roll call, please?
Yeah. Mayor Pete Science,
Present.
Webb County Judge Tano Itejerina,
Present.
Councilmember Norma Nelly Vielma, Councilmember Dr. Martha Martinez, Councilmember George Algell, County Commissioner Jesse Gonzalez,
Present.
County Commissioner John Galo,
Present.
Texas District Engineer David M. Salazar Jr.
Present.
For the record, you have
Motion to excuse, actually.
We have a council member or commissioner,
No, Councilman.
council member, commissioner for this group.
Judge? Is he amigo, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir. How are you? Welcome.
Motion to excuse, I guess, the other members that are not present with us here today. Second.
There's a motion, a second discussion, none heard. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
None. Any opposed? None heard. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Moving on, but before we do, I would like to acknowledge some young people that have been shadowing, following our mayor and I guess other council, any other commissioners from Webb County. Judge, do you mind just briefly introducing us?
Absolutely. These individuals, these bright individuals that we have are from United High School. We're very proud of them. We have 7 of them shadowing the judge today. I have a program that shadow the judge. And so they get to see a little bit of the ins and outs on how government works. Especially our 2 local governments and more importantly, our county government. And I let them know the differences between the city and the county and the job opportunities that are there. We have some that want to aspire to be lawyers, some want to be a medical examiner. Even after we came out of the medical examiner's office, I was surprised, pleasantly surprised. And then you have some other individuals that want to be engineers and whatnot. So they have a very bright future. I'm really excited for them, and they were a great group of young women and young men to be able to be around today. So they got to see a little bit of everything. I did tell them the most important part was this morning when we were doing the ribbon cutting for the loop. I told them, you might forget about this whole day, but for the rest of your lives, you're going to pass with your grandchildren, and your children are going to say, I was here for the ribbon cutting. So they were pretty excited about that. So Raul Leal, we appreciate you, what you did this morning. Thank you for everything you've done. So anyway, thank you all very much. Congratulations.
Thank you. And again, welcome young people to this meeting here. Moving on, citizens' comments. Anyone wishing to speak, you can fill out a card, and if you haven't, please come forward. I don't see anyone approaching the lectern, so we'll move on. Item 4. Let's see, did you want an item brought first?
Yes, item number B, or,
Yeah,
excuse
4B.
me, item number C, if we could start with the presentation of the MTP, the Metropolitan Transportation
Okay,
Plan.
so it's
by our
4C? 4C?
Correct, 4C.
Okay, is there a motion that we bring up 4C?
So moved. Second.
Seconded, discussion, none heard. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Not heard, motion carries. Item 4C.
Well,
Is-
there's a public
is
testimony,
before
so
us.
do we need to open up the public hearing?
Is it already open, or do we need to close it?
It's already open.
It's already continued, okay.
Okay, welcome. I see a gentleman approaching. Yes, sir. Your name and title for the record.
My name is Charlie Sullivan with CDM Smith.
Welcome. And you're presenting?
Yes, presenting on the final step on the Metropolitan Transportation Plan.
Okay.
There's an opening.
Do you need assistance from the IT folks? Thank you.
Okay, Richard? The presentation is here. Okay, there it goes. Okay, when y'all said hello earlier to the young people, I thought you meant me, so I was a little.
I thought you were in that group.
And this is the really fun part of planning, because I get to give the very end of the process and show you how the process we did can make a difference, how it can change, how it can be good for y'all. So let me say what the MTP is. It's the Metropolitan Transportation Plan. It's a 25-year plan for guiding transportation investments for the region. The neat part about it is it's not only a plan, it's a framework to guide these decisions. It's all inclusive. It documents how our process is inclusive of everybody, every region, every transportation mode. It's fair. Every project has a chance to be selected. It's also required by federal law, and it's part of a 5-year cycle that keeps on going. As soon as we finish this plan, it starts the next one. Here's the timeline for it, showing we started data collection and preparation 3 full years ago, and we've been working about 1.5 years on the actual document. A lot of what we've done, if you can see there's public involvement. We went to the stakeholders, all types of groups. We had public meetings to get the region's vision for what they want transportation to do for them. We came to mathematical processes, so we have subjective and objective parts. Everything is documented and transparent and clear. We went through, we had draft documents, public meetings for get review, so everything is open. Then after 3 years, 300 pages worth of document, this is basically a summary of what we've got here. This is the fiscally constrained 25-year projects of all the different funding categories. TxDOT has some projects. We have Metropolitan mobility projects. We have transit. We're looking at bicycle alternate modes. They're on here. This is about a dozen. We've also got the rest of the projects that are unfunded are also in the plan. They're ready. They're prioritized and ranked and ready to go. So what we've got, where we are right now at the end of the process, this morning we met with the technical committee and they recommended approval of the plan. They liked it. The next step is for y'all to adopt it to meet the federal requirements and the deadlines. And then the next step after that is not the end of this process, but it's the very beginning. Vanessa and Kirby will be using this plan, this process, this framework. They'll be conforming the TIP all the time, which is a Transportation Improvement Program, your 3-year category of projects for immediate construction and implementation, conforming to this long-range plan. And then going forward, we'll start the next 5-year cycle, which will be the 2050 plan. Okay.
I just have a question for TxDOT. So this incorporates the Mexico-Texas master plan, our own TIP, obviously, it's the 5-year plan that we have.
Yes, Your Honor.
Brings in all those projects that we've been discussing here.
That is
ad
correct.
nauseam for the last 2 years.
That is
Okay.
correct. The NTP plan does have our TxDOT projects on there. It is in correlation with the border master plan. They do have access to it. They will be getting access to this project, but it does include our TxDOT projects that we prioritize.
That was all folded into the call for projects too.
Is there a priority listing, or it just has a? it's
Yes,
all-
there's actually 2 priority listings. The MP document has a fiscally constrained projects ranked by priority, and then the fiscally unconstrained, which is the ones that we don't have funding for, which are also listed according to their priority ranking.
We also have offsite, what do you call it, an off-system, for example, the Ruthinger, Char, Beltway, all of that, so all in here, off and on, and, all these projects.
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
Everything is there.
Oh, yes. Yeah, Councilmember Nelly Vilma's not with us. I let the record reflect that. Thank you. So we're okay?
Question?
Okay. Sure.
Sure. Good afternoon. My question is, how much of the mass transit and active transit was part of the conversation as it relates to the both the fiscally restrained and unrestrained, programming that you are looking at?
We actually do those 2 separately. The active transportation is the one that is most in there. We have the projects and we rank them. That's the category 9, to where we submit a grant and then we may or may not get the grant. We may or may not get the funding. But assuming, based on trends that we get the funding, we have, I think, 4 category 9 projects for bicycle and pedestrian trails in the plan, in the fiscally constrained list. For transit, it's a different category of funding, and essentially in this plan, we provide the funding to the transit agency, and they do their operational short-range planning by their own planning process. For them, we're only channeling the funding, basically.
And that's just formula-based on ridership and population, or how is it?
From
that-
TxDOT, they have a formula based on ridership and population, yes.
Okay, and so there's really, the technical committee doesn't really debate the funding, it's just, that's more kind of automated, I suppose, or how does that work?
I would say it's automated.
Yeah, the
because
revenue projections
Yeah.
are pretty formulaic, yes.
It's a dedicated category of funding strictly for transit.
Okay, and so then when it comes to the fiscally unrestrained part of that mass transit conversation, I mean, what does that conversation look like? Having never been in a technical review committee, I'm just wondering.
Basically, for the roadside, we do traffic analysis. We have a travel demand model, and we can take a particular project, say a road widening or a new road, compare the no build to the build process and crunch some numbers. For transit, we cannot do that with the model with the tools that we have. So that we evaluate transit separately, and that's why generally the transit category, we just give the money to the transit agency.
If
Okay.
I can add just a little bit of context as well, and if I'm guessing your question, it's hey, how much of this transportation plan in the future is considering alternative modes of traffic? And what we're doing right now, having started the active transportation plan, will give us a list of projects, and that will be added to these project lists as we go into the future. So we did identify already some projects on the constrained and unconstrained list, but we need more. We need more plans and projects that we're going to implement. And the plan that we're implementing, that we're starting right now, the active transportation plan, the result of that will be one of the results will be a list of projects of, hey, these are things we could do in the city that, would make sense. A corridor here, bike lanes here, these improvements here for transit. And then that would feed into when we update this process, so we have an even better list of projects for what we want to do. Because
Thank you for that explanation. It's insightful. One of the questions I've had, and this may not be the right venue for it, but the county has the El Águila system, and El Águila brings in a lot of folks from around the county, into the city for services, right? And then from there, my question is, what sort of cohesion is there between El Metro and El Águila so that we're able to kind of bring El Águila to this hub? And I understand, a lot of El Águila buses are parked outside of the main terminal here downtown. But as we go putting in other hubs, how are we going to best coordinate with El Águila so that we're able to so that it's not just a option of last resort, right? Currently, mass transit in Webb County and the city of Laredo, I mean, you're riding El Metro or El Águila for the most part because you have to, not because you want to, right? And if we do it right, it will be, like a German, clock. You'll be able to set your watch to it. It'll be this, bus pass, Wi-Fi experience where you can be productive while being brought into town. It'll be a choice, not a just forced option. And so I know we all kind of have our different hats, but I think as it relates to, mass transit, physical mobility is social mobility. And if El Águila serves so much of that part of the county that is definitely at or below the poverty line, that's a springboard to get, kids to college, to get, parents to work. And so I'm really hoping that this conversation can kind of, take flight. And
There is a plan specifically to do that, and it's called the Regionally Coordinated Transit Plan.
Okay,
And it looks at the county and the metro areas and also Health and Human Services Transportation. And that is done by TxDOT.
The COG that usually does that, or they have done it in the past.
Because I know
a
we
regional
really never,
coordinated plan.
at least
But for
not,
purposes of this plan, Councilman, the, El Aguila is part of our technical committee, so they were involved in this process, the entire way through. So they were apprised of all the projects, they were, given the call for projects, so that they could send us in any projects they wanted considered. But as far as the relationship between our Metro and them, probably Transit would be better able to speak to what relationship, how they interact.
can we have an explanation of that interaction on the next MPO agenda?
Of what action?
The interaction between El Aguila
Sure,
and
we
Metro?
can put that on.
Well, Ms. San Miguel is here, and Ms. San Miguel can let us know a
Yeah,
little
Ms.
bit.
Or right now, it's fine too, yeah, okay, sure.
She's very well knowledgeable about how we work together.
Good afternoon,
Ms.
Clarence
Sandra.
San Miguel, General Manager for Metro. Briefly, going back to the funds that they were inquiring as to how much money we received from TxDOT directly, those formula dollars. Tonight on the Mass Transit Board agenda, we have the acceptance of $689,000 in change for MNO, for the transit system. And just as a point of reference, compared to our operating total budget of 60 million, it's about 4% what we receive from TxDOT. Just as a reference, we do receive formula dollars from TxDOT, about $689,000 a year. It's gonna vary year to year. Could be 500, could be 600. This year, I think it's one of the highest, $689,000 for the entire year.
That's 4%
Of our budget for the year.
of your budget,
So-
basically a bus a year?
Well, actually, it's maintenance and operation,
Oh, okay.
so, yeah.
So maybe I missed a point. What's the connection, that cohesion that?
Yeah,
Between
the
Aguila?
cohesion, at this point, we have made several attempts to work on plans to bring both agencies to work together and find ways to bring in some efficiencies for both departments. And unfortunately, we're not been able to get to that point. Most recently,
Save that thought, why? Why haven't you been able to, to communicate?
like I said, I've made several attempts. I really don't know. I mean, I do not have a specific
Would it help that
response
maybe
for
the
the past.
commissioners or the judge?
I know we visited about a month ago on
Right,
an
yeah.
idea or a big project that might hit, in South Laredo. I think on that one, we are on the same page, county, city, and even LC.
Yes. Like I said, in the past, we had made some attempts that unfortunately they didn't work out. At this point, we have a project where, well, thanks to, Commissioner Gonzalez and LC, several representatives, myself, and going back to the budget workshops, if you all remember, I requested authorization from City Council to go out and seek those partnerships so we can build up our transit system on any possible way. Our biggest challenge is the same challenge that the county is going to have. El Aguila, its fleet, its facilities, and things of that nature, capital dollars. So doing some legwork myself and staff and seeking for opportunity for funding directly with TxDOT, it will only be available through partnerships. And that's why I made it a point to come out with this partnership.
Okay, let me ask you this. I know it's getting lengthy, but maybe put it on the next agenda and
Yeah,
come up with a plan. or
that's my request, but I'm glad you came up to kind of give us a little background, just the same. And we're talking about potentially a hub at the LC South Campus, right?
Correct.
Which I think is a no-brainer.
If you allow me one more
Sure,
minute,
sure.
I mean, that was what I was heading. We had those conversations with LC, we had those conversations with county representatives, and as of today, we have that project, and it's gonna be part of the legislative agenda for the City of Laredo. We're gonna try to seek funding to build a hub in the south. LC has offered the opportunity to use their land as a match. My objective, after years and seeking funding and different funds, is to come up with a project that's gonna be zero out-of-pocket for the city, zero out-of-pocket for the county, and at this point, zero out-of-pocket except for the land for LC. To have a facility where we can put circulators, where we can provide the services for the students or the residents of the possibly Rio Bravo and El Cenizo and some of the
Are you talking
south
$10 million
colonias.
more or less?
For that project, depending on the match, and again, this is all preliminary, I mean, might be a land value of $3 million. If that's gonna be the in-kind match, we can possibly apply for $10 million. So we can be competitive with other cities, with other counties that are gonna be applying for these grants. So today I can tell you, we're working on those partnerships, and the county is very active with us, and we're definitely looking forward because we're gonna realize efficiencies. The county, El Aguila, is gonna realize efficiencies and wanna provide a much better service for the residents of San Lorenzo.
Okay, so we have this ongoing plan then. Well,
Yes.
So you'll come back at the next MPO meeting and tell us how we can help you specifically? Awesome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sam.
Anything else on this other item? Item 4C? We okay?
Just need to adopt the resolution 2020-02.
Okay, is there a
So
motion?
moved.
Yeah, go ahead.
So moved.
Okay, motion is seconded by Commissioner Gonzalez. Discussion unheard, all those in favor say aye.
All right.
Any opposed? None heard, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Going back to item 4A, that's your approval of the minutes for the meeting held on December the 16th, 2019, which says this commission.
So moved if there's no changes.
Second.
There's a motion, a second discussion. None heard, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None heard, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Item 4B, discussion with possible action on the MPO Policy Committee member vacancy, proposed bylaws amendment, yeah.
So as you recall, we were making some changes to our bylaws, and one of those was regarding the positions that are on the committee. We've waited to bring you the adoption of the changes because we'd like to bring them to you all at once. You don't have to change the bylaws and then change them again in a couple meetings. And one of those changes, as you recall, was about how many members are required to make a quorum, to help us make quorum more frequently. So that'll be one of the changes. The other change was the name. We are going with Laredo and Webb County Area MPO. And unless you all want to change it, we'll bring it to you. And then the final one was about the MPO positions. We have 3 positions from the city, 3 from the county, and 1 from the Laredo Mass Transit Board. And there are 2 in our current organization. We have 2 from TxDOT, the district engineer and the district administrator. Well, now there's only a district engineer who also serves as the district administrator. And so TxDOT has offered to allow the board to appoint somebody else to that position. And I just wanted to bring up this slide again. You saw this. This was from a survey of MPOs conducted across the country to show several examples of board members that are board positions. You can see most of them are local city elected officials, but there's also a lot of different organizations that serve on MPOs. One thing you'll notice is that there are not federal positions. Somebody had brought that up. The federal government oversees the MPO process, and they will not allow a federal organization to sit on the board that they're overseeing. We had also before talked about having a logistics organization serve, but we found that the one that we suggested probably wasn't a good fit since they can have members from both sides of the border. So that's still an option, but I just wanted to bring up one. This is an open discussion for you all, and I'm just here to provide information, but the recommendation in the technical committee and also my recommendation would be to take another look at the RMA, and the reason is because their board is devised equally of all the district and precincts, so they should be representing the city and county equally, and this is their mission. I mean, it's like 100% overlap with what we do in the MPO.
Can I answer? I thought we already decided this, moved it forward, and we're ready to vote on it. And now you brought,
The last time when we were ready to, the issue was that the organization, the logistics organization that was suggested, had members from both sides,
yeah, so that should be really the only thing.
but y'all decided that would not be a
I know, but I thought we would have put it, you would put up there, it's 3 city council, 3 members from the county, 1 TxDOT engineer, and 1 to be decided.
one to be decided, yes.
But you still have it the way it was, and now you're talking about how other counties have it, and we already had that discussion. We're here to move forward. I thought we were gonna adopt the rules that we're gonna take a quorum of only 4.
We still have a vacant Well, we don't have to, we can.
Yeah, because we were gonna do this, alpha thing, and then we're like, well, that's not gonna work, and then so I think we're coming back to figure out what to do.
Yeah, but he doesn't have that. He still has it the old way.
No, that's the way it was, just for reference, right? That was a slide for
yeah.
reference.
Correct.
Not for what it's gonna be.
No.
We still have to decide on
So
that.
we
Use some
still,
context you can
and
make.
this
So
is
what do we need the
context.
reference for the other stuff? Like I said, you already showed us this, you showed us that.
So really the question is, who do we appoint for that slot? Yeah.
Yes, you have one vacant position that you can appoint. You indicated Alpha would not work. We had met with them, but you indicated that wouldn't work. And
So now we're
still
coming
have that
to
one vacant position.
RMA, because RMA is equally composed of city and county appointees, right?
Correct.
As I understand it.
And their mission is
Similar.
transportation, very similar to the MPO.
And, yeah,
And I reached out to talk to them just to say, is that something you would even consider? And they said, as a board, we could make an appointment, just like the council has and the county has the ability to appoint, and they're typically appointing people who serve on those councils and committees. So it could be
They're
that the
kind of
Army
an
appoints a board
autonomous
member.
board with their own money.
That was just our recommendation. You can go with whatever, we'll take your direction, we'll meet with that group, and then we'll bring it back to adopt the bylaws, whatever decision.
that's just a suggestion.
Just a suggestion.
So that we kind of have,
Something to work off.
okay, work off of, and a little balance, if you will, since it's county and city combined. And to be fair, the area, right, is primarily, the city limits, ETJ, and bits and pieces of the county, but it's not the whole of the county, but it certainly is, by all accounts, a large portion of the tax base, and a large portion of the populations that we serve. Okay, and so what do other, can we go back to that slide on what other MPOs, so the majority are elected officials, either way, right?
Yes, and about 20% have a board member with a regional council, and that's where the RMA would fall under that,
Okay,
under a regional council.
so we've got,
And just to give you an example, the Corpus and the Valley as well have RMA positions up there. And
say again, Corpus in the Valley, what?
Valley, the new Valley MPO have RMA members on there.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, but if I'm not mistaken, the new value of the MPO have like 38
They do.
members.
They have quite a few.
Yeah, so they were looking for
They-
people to put in there. Yeah.
man, that's gotta be a circus.
Do some of our projects overlap with the RMA's projects where we should be in communication and collaboration?
That's a great point to bring up, yes. Currently, the RMA is doing a study, I believe it's called the North Laredo Transportation Study.
Mhm.
That's something that typically a MPO would be undertaking, and, there could be more, they're reaching out to us, but that's definitely something where it's 100% overlap, and typically it's the MPO performing those types of studies. And they've taken the initiative and started doing that study.
See, because we didn't have anyone in the MPO with that capacity.
Yeah.
Yes.
The other question that I have is, are we still okay with 3 members of the Commissioners Court and 4 members of the City Council? You could call Councilman August whatever you want, Commissioner, whatever, he's still 4. There's no problem as far as having a quorum, is that correct?
As far as having a quorum, right now, the bylaws say you need 50% plus.
I'm sorry, I'm talking
So you need
about for
5.
their prospective government entities. So in other words, City Council will be for the City of Laredo, Commissioners Court will be for the Webb County.
I'm like 4.
No, but 5 for.
Oh, it takes
I would
5, that's
consider
right.
quorum.
You all have to have 5 for quorum
Oh, yes,
for
I'm
city
sorry.
council. We have to have 3, and that's kind of what all of us have been kind of going back and forth, even our attorneys have been looking into it. I just want to make sure we're not getting into slippery slopes here, if we're talking about already changing, the bylaws.
As one of the proposals was to change the requirement from what it currently is, which is 5 to make quorum, to 4 to make quorum. Which
No,
That's not the
I totally understand that. My question though is,
whether there's an imbalance between city and county.
No.
Their own
My
internal-
biggest, so forget about the city, let's just go to the county. I'm talking about the county commissioners court, it takes 3 votes, majority vote, to be, you got your 3 votes, you'll change whatever you like.
I'm yours.
I just wanna make sure that because we have 3 sitting up here, we don't have a problem, but we're not breaking any laws by having 3 members of Commissioners Court in your MPO.
Yes, well, these are publicly noticed meetings, so we're giving the public.
Okay, just
that
as long as
adequate
we're
notice.
okay with that, I just wanted to make sure.
But he's saying that it may impact the
legal
county.
Yeah, do you have
It's a
a
public notice.
It's a
county
public notice, we just,
Toma issue is your question? And,
You're forming quorum when you come here. if three-
it would be very rare or odd to see us vote unanimously up here and then go against each other in Commissioners Court if we ever had to take something to Commissioners Court. And so I just don't wanna get in a sticky situation, that's all.
I think you're good because it's a publicly noticed meeting. Your intent is to meet as commissioners of the MPO as opposed to bypassing or circumventing TOMA. But that's just my criminal defense hat.
But I think your legal department should give you.
But yes, I will refer you to your own legal department.
I think
for-
Let's go
we've
back to
already
the,
have.
let's go back to the initial question, there's 1 slot, who do we want?
Well, let's go back, if we may just back up a little bit farther. I'm ready to vote again on, it's 3 from City of Laredo, 3 from Webb County. It's 1 from the Mass Transit Board, 1 text dot engineer, and 1 to be determined. And then on the other part, it's the 4 to make a quorum.
Okay, and if we have a quorum,
That's what should have
what's the
been brought up.
majority then? 3 out of the 4? So
No.
3 votes
Minimum is 4.
for a quorum,
Yeah, minimum is 4.
but for a.
For voting is
But for
what you're
voting, yeah, for authority, do you need the 4 votes?
Well,
It has to
The
be
majority of the
unanimous.
present.
Majority, so it'd be 3 out of the 4
3 out
votes.
of 4, yeah.
Majority of the present.
Majority of the president,
Majority of the present.
okay.
Mayor, if I may, before we get going, as text, I will be abstaining from this vote, whatever y'all do decide. But before I get going, Mr. Steinman, I want to applaud your efforts in the technical committee. I think you're taking great bounds and getting that in the right direction moving forward. A lot of items that are brought here already almost at the point where we just vote on them. I want to applaud your efforts. I think you're doing a tremendous job in the way you're communicating with TechStop. Thank you for that. A couple of things that the attorney, Mr. Algid and Ms. Velma, great point. I think both of them elected officials is always good on NPOs, although not in the bylaws. It's good when you have an elected official that represents several groups of people. Again, I do have concerns with the RMA because of votes that come back and forth. That is a good statement. I will say that the RMA, the MPOs in the valley, as you referenced to in FAR, have combined. I think they're down to 38 members, and you're right, it is a circus. The plan is to continue to downsize it, which is a great opportunity. And just to clarify, this position is vacant. TechStop did not offer to give the position up. There was some rumblings about who was gonna replace it, so at that point, I decided not to fill the spot. We will go with whatever direction the MPO decides to vote on, whatever direction they do choose to go on. I do believe the reduction of members in the MPO with a strong technical committee will work. Perhaps not maybe 5, maybe 7 at this point, and then work from that. But all valid points. Point being is that TechStop will support every decision you make, and I will be abstaining from this vote, whatever it is.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Salazar. So anyway, going back to the point.
My motion then was to, we got 3 City of Laredo, 3 Webb County, 1 Mass Transit Board, 1 text dot engineer, and 1 to be determined, and then 4 to create a quorum. I thought that's what we instructed you all to bring back. I thought this was the final vote on that, so we can make sure that we could have a quorum future reference.
4 for a quorum, and then the majority of the quorum,
That's your motion, sir?
That's my
well, the
motion.
majority present would constitute a vote.
Correct.
An action vote.
And just for clarification, so the board would remain a 9-member board, but we're just gonna leave one vacant.
For the time being, yeah.
Well, to be determined.
To be
But
determined.
maybe-
But that's exactly what we voted on last time. We just said we alpha, but then we said, no, we're not gonna use alpha, we're gonna determine it later. That's why I get very confused when we go all the way back to the beginning and we had already decided this.
Apologies, I guess I was confused because when we heard to be determined, we thought, oh, okay, well, they want us to bring it back to determine it.
No, we're just determined because we said at one time it was gonna be Alpha, and then we said, no, maybe that's the Mexican side. We need to have somebody from the American side to do it, and so then there was quite a bit of discussion about that. So we want somebody from the I thought, the thought was, we wanted somebody from the transportation industry. Now, if it needs to be, elected official, I don't know what you do unless you go to Rio Bravo or Cenizo or something and bring one of them in. But again, my move, 3 positions from Laredo, 3 positions from Wood County, 1 position from Mass Transit Board, 1 TxDOT engineer, and 1 person to be determined.
Here's a suggestion.
Seat. And then the 4 members
Oh,
to meet the quorum.
last meeting was the 10-day public review and comment period. Is that why we kind of like?
There is a requirement of a noticing period when you make changes to the
Yeah,
bylaws.
and we did that.
We did that, and then, today is the day of the vote,
Yeah.
right?
Okay, yeah, let's,
That's why I'm surprised.
on that point, no, I think you're right, Commissioner Gayla, so let's, your motion, and again, 3 city, 3 county, 1 from TxDOT, district engineer, and then the other for the Mass
Mass Transit Board, and 1 to be determined by this board.
Those are for the bylaws.
Okay, and then a quorum of 4, and then the majority of whoever's present constitutes an action.
Members present.
But the thing is, the resolution isn't on today's agenda.
So we can't vote on it?
I'm not a legal person, but the
Well, let's-
agenda just says discussion.
What are we doing here?
Possible
Well,
action.
let's, yeah, and if anything to instruct, I guess, for next time,
Need to bring it back.
We can have a resolution drafted to your direction, and we'll have it here for adoption at the next.
okay, so let's reaffirm that, I guess, by
What
way
you
of
might
a-
wanna start doing.
Oh,
excuse
but
me,
okay, but hold on,
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
If you don't mind, what I'd like to do, or what you all would like to start doing maybe, is discussion and possible action with MPO Policy Committee member vacancy and any other matters incident there too. That other matters incident there too, we could have knocked it down, so maybe for the next time, just start putting in any other matters incident there too.
We can do that.
Okay.
I just thought that, I don't know if I had heard correctly from legal, that we had to be very clear, it can't be vague.
Okay,
Well, this one here, I don't think
clear.
anybody's clear.
Well, I think it's
No, no, I
pretty
think
clear
it's
this one to be
clear now.
determined.
Yeah.
Well, and I apologize for interrupting,
Oh,
Judge.
you're fine.
But to Commissioner Galo's point, we already crossed that
Yes, we did.
bridge last rodeo.
That's actually-
And so then the only thing left is this to be determined, item
No, but it has to be
4B.
voted on again, because we have to go through the public hearing. and get-
The
whole shebang, or
Is it-
just, we can't compartmentalize just
No,
those?
no,
Yeah, we
it's
need to
kinda like
move on,
the
I think,
ordinance,
I think we
that-
got
that
the,
third reading.
bring it next time, we're clear now, clear as daylight.
Clear
And,
mode.
so I guess we'll finalize it next time. Call for a vote, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Did we have a second?
I did.
Oh,
I need clarification.
okay.
Motion carries.
How you carry?
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the minutes from last meeting, so the only thing we reduced was from the quorum to 4. When did we reduce the cities to 3 instead of 4?
No,
It's always been
it's the
3.
same.
You have 1 mass transit, he's mass
I'm
transit.
the Mass Transit guy.
Sorry,
yeah.
okay.
That confused me too.
Nobody
Okay, we need to move on
counts
to
the
that.
Mass
All
Transit.
right.
We're
Well, I
like
just-
the redheaded
I-
stepchild of the
I
MPO
thought you
Commission.
were a city, that's why.
Okay.
I'm looking over there, who's mass transit?
For some reason, my agenda's not appearing, but I'll use that.
Which item?
Let's see, we're, item B, C, we've done, C. D, discussion with possible action on the Chad Ruthinger, status report by, Verde Corp. Representative on the right-of-way ownership. Mr. Nick Steenberg, thank you. Oh, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Nice.
For the record, Nicholas Van Steenberg representing Verde Corp. And the Hachar Trust.
Welcome, sir.
I understood, I watched last month's meeting, and I know there were a number of questions, so I'm here to answer those
I
questions.
guess the easiest one is, has that land issue been resolved?
Yes, I believe it has, Mr. Galen. I have.
You believe it has, or it has it been
We-
funded, has it been transferred, has it been
It
documented?
has not been transferred, it has not been funded. The story is that they purchased that land, the right to purchase that land in 2013 under an option. They purchased it in the option in 2015, so we're talking 5 years ago. They have been kept up and fully aware of the plans of the, you know, the proposed path, et cetera. But recently, there has been a division of some of the ownership of the property within the family. That has been going on for the last 6 months. And what I was just apprised right before Christmas was that the land is now solely within the ownership of one of the siblings, and that is Irma Montemayor. So now she's in a position to move forward with the agreement with us. We, representing Verde and Hachars, have been working with them since they, this issue was raised, which was about July of last year, and worked with them for several months. And we have an agreement to swap the land underneath the proposed highway route and some other land to the north of that with highway frontage property.
Well, I mean, I don't want you to go into too much detail about what you all need to do, but at what point do you think this will be documented to where we can move forward?
I'm expecting to get that hopefully by the end of this month. Hopefully by next MPO meeting, we'll have it documented, signed, and done. The issue, which I did want to get to because there were some questions as to why the land had not been donated yet, et cetera, et cetera. The issue that we have, and Mr. Salazar is here now so he can vet what I'm saying, we know where we want the road to go, but we don't know where the road is going to go. That is the whole process that we are doing right now with the environmental assessment, the EA, which we are well on the way to doing. We've just submitted the 90% mark, and perhaps Luis Betta's got a CEO or others at the county can speak to that. But they were gathering those within the last week and a half. So we're at 90% submission or thereabouts with TxDOT as to where the engineers believe the roads or the road is best set to go. And then through this environmental assessment process, TxDOT will be assessing that and the path and how it avoids different topography, the, maybe different immovable objects like overhead electric lines, the towers, et cetera. And then at the end of the EA, they will hopefully produce a finding of non-significant environmental impact, and we will then have the meets and bounds for the 8.1 mile path.
And that meets and bounds would be obviously within the land that the that you manage and the routingers as well. In other words,
That is correct.
what we want to know at the end of the day is that we'll be dealing with you and with the routingers, and that you are still keeping your promise that you'll be donating that right away to the city, I guess, and county.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Correct.
And that's correct.
That is
the
correct.
intention is still there.
Our intention is to swap property
No,
that is
for us,
not under, okay, yes. You'll be dealing with two landowners.
Okay,
at the end of
and you'll
this,
be donating that right
Ruthinger
away.
and Achar.
And the donation is forthcoming once we
Correct.
determine the meets and bounds.
That is correct.
Thank you.
And again, we don't have the meets and bounds yet, and that's months away, so only until we have that can an actual donation occur.
From our standpoint, I think it's all we need, right?
David, in a real world, how long does the last 10% take?
I don't know.
Well, in your world.
I don't know why I always get stuck with 18 months. I like to say 18 months because if it happens sooner, I'm a hero. If it happens longer,
So 18 months for the final 10%?
no, that's a bad joke. I apologize for that.
It's
I
actually
couldn't
3
help
years.
myself. No, I think he's actually correct. The 90%, we're there. I don't expect or anticipate, the question would be, do you anticipate anything coming up in that environmental assessment, which I don't think there is out there, that's gonna throw a snafu into the whole issue. I assume that by the time the environmental assessment is cleared, the schematic should pretty much be well in place, or we know more or less where it's gonna be. I don't anticipate a very long time. Again, we're not doing the work for them, we're kind of overseeing it.
No, we're not gonna hold you to it, but
No.
I guess maybe the better question is the final 10% to meets and bounds. So about what would you guesstimate? And it's again, to guess, to having meets and bounds.
I would have to refer to,
It's speculative.
All I know is
I'm
we,
just saying, he better than us can speculate. A
without,
year, 2 years?
without actually looking at what he's dealing with in the document and everything goes quick, it shouldn't be more than a year. Am I correct? It should not be more than a
So
year.
there's a light at the end of the tunnel?
Yes.
all I know is Luis Perez Garcia told us that early 2022, we're gonna be driving down
A dirt road.
the Char Ruthinger Parkway with the windows down and the radio up.
Maybe with a drone.
Thank you so
All
much,
right.
Mr. Vasquez.
Well, at least there's a window. Right?
Yes, sir. Thank
I
you
mean,
for your
it's a
time.
light at the tunnel, okay.
And your promise as well. Thank you so much. We
So
appreciate that.
you'll come back hopefully next meeting and have good news?
Yes, I'll certainly keep you apprised on anything with,
Thank you.
with Webb County.
Thank you so
Webb
much.
Commercial.
Moving on, item 5A, Road and Award Nominee. Textile?
I'll take that, Your Mayor. If you don't mind, I'm gonna read off some notes I have here for this item. So let me start by saying, as every year, the Texas Department of Transportation selects an individual who exemplifies the qualities of a leader, a trend maker in the arena of transportation, a person who embodies a personification of an outstanding transportation partner for who, without constant and unwavering support, TxDOT would not be able to improve the transportation needs of the communities across Texas. This is what the Road Hand Award entitles. And believe it or not, one of those individuals is in our midst today. He has made positive strides toward improving the transportation infrastructure of this community. Before I want to go on with the announcement, I want to name a few people who were selected and recognized by TxDOT in 2019, helping their respective communities and regions create great transportation partnerships and infrastructures. Last year, the 2019 award of recipients of the Road Hand Award were the Honorable Larry Phillips, District Court Judge for Delta, Fannin, and Grayson counties; Michael Reeves, President of Transportation Advocates of Texas; the Honorable H.P. Taylor, Harrison County Judge; and the Honorable Kevin Webb of Comal County Commissioner. Today, joining these distinguished ranks of these individuals, as mentioned above, is such a leader in Laredo. To name a few of his accomplishments, this individual has been part of the free and secure trade, normally referred to as fast lanes of the World Trade Bridge, to help the city maintain a position in world trade by improving operational efficiencies at World Trade Bridge. This project represents an investment of $10.3 million derived from corridor border infrastructure grants funds, CBI dollars, of $8 million awarded to the city by the Texas Department of Transportation, and an additional $2.3 million in matching from bridge revenues. This individual has promoted the expansion of the binational airport federal inspection facility operations to allow for consolidated shipping, whereby this person and city management and custom and trade leaders travel to Mexico with key Mexican officials to promote the concept of consolidated shipping. The recipient of the award is also a proponent of airport improvement projects that are ongoing. The cargo apron reconstruction, phase 11 and 12 improvements funded with a grant from FAA in the amount of $12 million, as matched with local funds of $1.2 million, and on schedule to be completed in March 2020. Additionally, received a grant of $9.8 million with local match of 10% for phase 13 of this airport. He was also an integral part of the transportation projects for Laredo approved by the Texas Department Transportation Commission in late August 2019 as part of the Unified Transportation Plan, which includes $220 million for the transportation projects proposed by the Laredo Metropolitan Organization, or better known as the Mpo.
And Kirby Snideman's only been here for a short, how many months?
This funding allows for critical system improvements inclusive of upgrades to US 59 and Loop 20, widening of State Highway 359, construction of interchanges on Interstate Highway 35, which will reduce congestion in the Laredo area. He is a participating member of the Board Trade Alliance, North American Premier Authority on issues affecting the U.S. northern and southern borders, representing a large grassroots network of over 4.2 million public and private sector representatives, including business leaders, chambers of commerce and industry, academic institutions, economic development corporations, industrial parks, transport companies, custom brokers, defense companies, manufacturers, state and local government agencies. Without further ado, please help me congratulate the Honorable Pete Zients, Mayor of the City of Laredo, as well as
We're over here playing Family Feud, wondering what was going on over here. Yeah, but once Board of Trade Alliance gave you away.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. What a
That's all
surprise.
you and me.
Mayor signs,
You know, I thought I must have been the
Mayor,
governor or some sort of.
Mayor signs will be recognized on February 10th, 2020 at the Texas Transportation Forum by TxDOT and the Texas Transportation Institute and its distinguished members.
Well, thank you so much. Deeply appreciate that very much. And it's.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it, thanks.
Survey says. We're all trying to figure out over here.
Like,
Mr. Mayor, well deserved.
Thank you, sir.
It should have been me, but fine. You can
I was thinking about Kirby, I said, man, he's only been a few months.
upstaging us all.
Yeah. No, thank you. I'm deeply grateful, you know, for this nomination or the award or the recognition. You know, we do what I was elected to do, and I'm passionate about it, and I'm serious about it, and I want my city and of course the county to succeed. So I go to sleep thinking about my city, and I wake up thinking about my city, and that's what we do, and this is what we all do here. So, you know, we all play roles, and I appreciate sincerely the award and this recognition. Thank you.
Well, when I saw the allocates, I couldn't memorize them, so I had to read them. I apologize.
A lot to,
Thank you so much.
Well deserved.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Mr. Mayor,
God bless.
on that highlight, I'd also like to, at this point, I know, because we don't really have anywhere in the agenda to do it, but if you allow me just to recognize David and his staff today on the ribbon cutting of the flyover 35, you know, on budget and under time, before due date. So congratulations. It looks like a wonderful project, a wonderful job. I mean, the people who are already using it, you see the relief for us that use that, the frontage roads. It's just a testament to you and all your crew, everybody here at TxDOT, you know, give yourselves a pat on the back. Working with everybody, you know, we're just moving forward, and I've said it many times, but it's really a delight to, you know, be up here and have these arguments, but we're seeing progress, you know, from the time I served on the MPO much, you know, long ago. It's just a different animal, and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Almost makes
to
me
the
cry.
staff
You know?
that did all the hard work.
Yeah,
and,
it's getting done.
Again, like I mentioned this morning, it's getting better, so there's projects coming up. As soon as we get the barricades pulling this one, we'll start the next one. So hopefully we'll get those 2 direct connectors built quickly.
But it was too cold for me to join you, so I wasn't dressed.
Yeah, I've already been getting a lot of positive feedback from my constituents, so thank you.
And we have to remind ourselves too that TxDOT is huge. It's a huge department for the state of Texas. You all have so much responsibility, and you all have so much stroke too to obtaining funds. So hopefully with your help and the help of a lot of TxDOT people here, let's keep on bringing that money. But of course,
Well,
we
you know,
gotta
Mayor,
do-
I'm sorry.
Sure. Go
You know, we were here, and I think you were here, we were having an argument about whether to fund the flyover or Char Parkway,
Right.
and look where we are. Flyover's done, and Char Parkway, we're still in the planning stages.
Yeah.
True. Anyway, we gotta
Well,
keep on
and
working.
then, yeah, I'm getting positive feedback from my constituents as it relates to, you know, mobility issues in the district. The honeymoon from the ribbon cutting, I'm sure will be faded away by, you know, sometime like tomorrow or the next day. And then it's back to cracking the 1472 quagmire all over again. But yes.
Give us a week, give us a week.
Yeah, let's enjoy this moment
Give us a week.
right now, just right now.
Can't talk about it for a week.
Yeah, yeah.
And if that's the case, let's move on. C, update on TxDOT on the redesignation of the IH 35 south of Victoria Street, also known as a 4-block area, including the state's position on said redesignation. And Dr. Martha Martinez, no, he's not here, but.
He would want us to hear what TxDOT.
Oh, no.
I think
Yeah, I'm sorry.
TxDOT, you all have that, you can do that internally, no?
You know, I looked
And I
at this.
missed B, by the way.
I looked at this item, and I know we discussed it at the technical committee, and I know that redesignation of the 4-block area is something very important to Dr. Marta Martinez and, of course, members of the council. However, how should I say this? We want to know what the purpose of the redesignation is is going to serve, or what is the goal of it, or we could know what direction the city's headed on, so we could help you get there.
Can we table this for next time? Because Dr. Marta, I know he's very passionate, unless
Do you want us to table?
Well, I would say that this item could probably be handled at rather outside of the MPO, because there is no funds, MPO dollars associated with it. We do have some concerns with redesignating it to a lower, facility roadway because of the funding concern. If we drop it from interstate to a farm to market road, we cannot allocate certain amount of monies to it. If, we've been approached twice, once for a park area, sidewalks, crosswalks, and now with the new commercial development that we're all for. We'd be happy to help you with that commercial development. I don't think there's a need to redesignate that area. But I think it's something that can be handled outside of the MPO. We could probably handle this at either at city council or with the committee within ourselves or the town committee, but to bring it forth to redesignate it, I don't think it's the right area for that. And we'd be willing to help you. I just need to know which direction we're going so we can help you get
I
there.
think I can clarify that, Mr. Mayor, just real briefly, because I know we went through this in detail at city council meeting. And essentially and I think Dr. Martinez put this agenda item up on behalf of council, frankly, as it relates to that crossroads of MPO and TxDOT and council. The consensus is that we transition away from a park, which would essentially be an island in the middle of a highway, benefiting, frankly, at this current point in time, the homeless population in Laredo, and because very few people would want to go hang out in a park that's in the middle of cars rushing by, and so why spend millions of dollars creating a space that's not going to have a broader reach? And so, and I'm trying to be delicate here. And so we were approached by the Mexican consulate, and they were speaking on their behalf as well as on the behalf of some private investors who very much see this space as a way to, bridge the two neighborhoods. There's all sorts of preliminary designs for underground parking, deceleration lanes, acceleration lanes, and ways to go over the roadways as it relates to east and west egress. And so I think, and then if you look at the southern end of those blocks as it relates to the new customs facility, there's a great opportunity there to handle a lot of the passengers on the buses and provide a food court and to provide opportunities for them to be able to go straight to the consulate. And so that seems to be the best and highest use of those properties. Now, you take that and you put it in combination with the already multitude of ways to get to Highway 83 South, 59, as well as 359 and Bob Bullock Loop, and their coalescence with IH-35, and the nature of the speed, because the freeway ends, but the highway continues, right? Well, it's for all practical purposes, it's not a highway anymore. It is a urban inner city corridor that if it did not have those designations and did have this best and highest use for those blocks, we wouldn't need all of that TxDOT red tape, if you will. I don't have a better word for it at this time. But I think that's kind of the direction that we're going, and what we're hoping to do is to seek and build upon the goodwill that we've been establishing with frankly you specifically on behalf of TxDOT, to find a way to connect the segregated El Azteca neighborhood and the downtown business district that we're in right now, and then have this opportunity come to fruition. I think that accurately surmises our analysis on.
Well, in other words, he wants to know how they can build there without, I guess, TxDOT taking, maybe having,
Too many issues with.
too many right-of-way issues,
Yeah, and
drainage.
in all honesty, and thank you, Councilman, for that description or definition of what we're trying to accomplish there. We'll support that. We want to support that, redesignating this roadway. I don't know that we're going to get away from TxDOT policy. I don't know what red tape you might want to mention, but we're willing to help make this happen, no matter what we have to do. I just don't believe the redesignation at this point is something viable that we need to get it done.
Yeah, not at this point, I agree.
Okay.
But I think what Dr. Martinez was hoping to accomplish, and here I'm going out on a limb, I'm not really directly speaking for him, but just kind of contemplating that logical next step would be, in this very preliminary juncture, would it be something that, TxDOT would be willing to consider? It's kind of like,
Well, let me ask you this, are we getting ahead of ourselves? Shouldn't we get the plan and see what these developers want to do? And then maybe when we have their plans, present it to TxDOT and see if they can accommodate?
Well, if there really is red tape, like I say, are they taking right-of-way issues that you're saying they're encumbering too much into the property, or is there sidewalk designations, or pedestrian crossings that you
I think the
can't?
specific issue is that TxDOT, even in that park scenario, was saying, okay, yeah, we're good, but we want to reserve some right-of-way in the event that we need to add an additional, turning lane
But that may be a
or
moot
southbound
point, though.
movement.
But it may be a moot point, because if the development comes, there's not gonna be a park.
Well, correct, but the reservation may still be there.
No, yeah, but at that point, I think they can make whatever corrections that are required.
I think we're a long way from, I think you're absolutely right, Mayor, and if I would like to offer, I think this is an item that probably needs to get tabled. We can work our way through it.
Let's get the
outside-
developers and
outside
see
of
what their
Infield.
thoughts are, and how much land from TxDOT do they need, and
Well,
then
okay,
we'll present a package to TxDOT.
It's an excellent idea.
Again, my fear is that we designate an FM roadway and I can't get any funding for it. The only other option is the city takes over it, then they have to maintain it, and that's not something.
No, and we want monies flowing in too.
but
That's
hold
where you all
on, I
come
mean,
in.
if it's gonna be a very, robust, wide tax base, $1 million investment, as it at least appears to be on paper. Taking on a handful of streets isn't such an ordeal. I mean, I realize streets are liabilities,
You'll be
they're not
surprised.
assets. But if the juice is worth the squeeze, well then, it's certainly something we contemplate. But yeah, I agree with you that it may be a little preliminary. Obviously, everything starts somewhere, and it always starts in a preliminary phase. And so I don't think necessarily we would need any TxDOT funding. I don't think we need any MPO funding. I think it's the agenda item was for the purposes of getting a conversation started. And so tabling seems like a natural thing to do at this point for purposes of bringing it back to the next meeting. But if in between now and the next meeting, I know you and Dr. Martinez have a good rapport, perhaps you all and the mayor
We can bring it to city council as well.
take some time to
Absolutely,
kind of run those traps.
absolutely.
So I'm motion to table the item right now.
Okay, second, all those in favor? Any opposed? Not heard, motion carries unanimously. And I apologize, we missed B, update
4A and 5B,
482.
minutes.
All right, okay, 4A. Got too excited for that nomination.
I think the judge had that motion, right, Judge, in the minutes?
Oh, yeah, we did. Those, yeah, and B as well. Yeah, did you get that, Vanessa? Yeah, we're okay? 4A, 4B, yeah, we covered those earlier.
We need 5B.
We need, transit, 5B, and
Yeah.
the minutes, we didn't take any action on the minutes.
No, the minutes we did,
The minutes we did.
yeah.
We went directly to the MTP.
Well, anyway, okay, those in favor that
Yeah.
All those in favor of the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Any
We did that.
opposed?
He made the motion, I made the second.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's, if there was no amendments,
Correct.
My understanding is we're at the 5B, the update by Transit El Metro on ridership and other performance measures. Yeah.
Like last time, I can ask you, want me to go through the entire detail. All I can tell you is we're on schedule, a little short on ridership, and that's because both LC and TAMIU, they're just gonna go back to session. So once they go back to session, we're gonna pick up that ridership. So we are on target, we are under budget, so we're good.
It's just a seasonal dip.
Yes.
When school lets out for the Christmas break,
Yes.
ridership. And is that consistent with the trends?
With the trend from previous
Previous
years
years.
and pretty much for different cities where they have a university or a college. So that will pick up in the next couple of months.
Okay.
Yes.
What about the circulators? How are they?
How are they performing? Yeah.
The one circulator that we have right now is,
what?
it's on plan. I mean, we realized that we're not having the ridership that we expected, and I believe I mentioned some of it before. We started the project with 2 paratransit vans refurbished. They don't have the capacity that is needed. So at the beginning, we had a high demand, a high ridership. People really liked it because we were able to connect those Mines Road subdivision and all the warehouses and all the employees over there. But we were leaving people behind because the vans did not have space and they're not equipped to have people standing. So the new vans should be arriving soon, the ones that City Council approved during budget. Once we put those vans into service, we're gonna have a capacity to transport up to 30 people at once. So we're gonna go back with the marketing advertising to let people know now we have enough capacity for you to be using the services, so.
And if you have a higher request from that area, couldn't we switch instead of a van, one of the big buses and
One
where
of
you
the
have
bigger
lower
ones.
ridership?
This, like I said, these vans that we ordered, they're gonna have capacity up to 30, and we're confident that's gonna be enough to keep the neighbors and the employees connecting back to the main route and the different routes that they connect at Target, like Springfield, and Social Security, Del Mar, the TAMIU, all those they're gonna be able to connect. So, again, we're not where we need to be, but we know the reasons, and we already have a plan for that.
Do you foresee another circulator program over here in the south that we have discussed?
The mid and long-term plan is to have the Mines Road circulator, a north circulator, and then the south circulator. The south circulator is gonna be enabled, once, and hopefully we're gonna get that project going with El Aguila and all that we just discussed earlier. So we're gonna have the facility, and at that point, we're gonna have to work on funds for the equipment.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any other question or comment for the lady? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ms. Amiga. Next item is D, a presentation on the Mpo Management. And I forget, I know it's my item. Can you remind me? Kirby? Mpo Management.
Yes, before we do, I just want to make an announcement. You have a sheet in front of you. I've contacted either your staff or you directly. There is a conference in San Antonio that's related to active transportation. And the dates of the conference are March 25th through 27th. What I'm proposing is just the 26th and 27th. That's a Thursday and Friday. We go up early morning, stay over Thursday night, and go to the Friday, and then we come back. We can have a carpool van, or you can take your own vehicle. Your gas will be paid, your mileage, and then your hotel, everything will be paid for. And it's a good opportunity to get the board out together and also to attend this conference. So if you're able to make it, please send an email to me or send an email to my staff member, Angie, and we'll determine arrangements after that. I'd love it if everybody could come, so as many as are able, just let me know as soon as you can, because they're filling up the entire conference. It's the first year it's ever happened.
This is going to be in San Antonio?
Yes, San Antonio, but there'll be people from all over the state there.
For the record, we're already in, so.
Now, yeah, I want to go as well.
Oh, there's no conflict, I will be.
Yes, is that a yes? Judges in, Commissioner?
Definitely be there.
Yeah, and then, of course, we can't, it's not a party without TxDOT.
Wow, this would be, if we could take, that would be fantastic.
Yeah.
And have a quorum of the MPO.
And guess what? I have a commercial driver's license, so I'll drive the bus.
All right.
Man, if that ain't,
The party bus?
that's what we're all about, right? Let's do it.
Thanks, that'd be great.
Thank you. Yes,
All
sir.
right, well, on the previous MPO meeting, we had a presentation on the bylaws and the MPO management, and y'all wanted to have just a separate one on MPO management so we could continue the conversation. So let me share some of the information we talked about previously, a little more since then. One thing I want to note is I'm going to be sending an email to y'all directly with some budgetary stuff. I didn't want to put that out because it would include salaries. Maybe this is not the right forum to discuss this, especially since we're looking to hire right now MPO staff additional. So that's forthcoming. But so the planned staff organization that we brought to you previously when we approved the work plan, which is our budget for 2020, half of an MPO director, so half of my time is budgeted, a division manager for the MPO, and Vanessa was promoted into that position for all the great work she's been doing, and she's the one that deserved that. We did interview for other, but she by far was the best candidate for that position. And then 3 planner positions and an admin position that we can now we're currently hiring for. And right now we have a planner who's filling the GIS planner position. 60% of his time is being budgeted. He may or may not move into that full time. We have some flexibility. It's one of the things we can talk about coming up is the flexibility we have to move staff in between the MPO because it's part of the planning department right now. That's the plan staff organization. We've got those positions right now active listed, and we're hiring and interviewing for those. So possible staff organization, if the MPO at some point goes off on its own, and my recommendation would be yes, at some point in the future, you should look at having your own MPO. I mean, an MPO director that's appointed directly by this board and reports to this board. In that position, in that organization, what makes sense, and I looked at this a few ways, where you could keep the most staff and eliminate the fewest amount of positions would just be eliminating the MPO division manager position and having an MPO director. And I'll send the budget stuff to you so you can see that in detail. And then you keep those remaining 3. So you would have 1 director, 3 planners, and 1 support, 5 full-time positions. See, I want to give you an example of an MPO that's very close in terms of their budget, their planning grant budget. Now, if you recall the planning grant, those funds are just for planning activities, just for planning staff. And most MPOs use that money, the majority of it for administration, and save up some of it over time for consultants. In the past, we've been using a fraction for staff and using most of it for consultants. So I suggested let's try a different approach where we bring on more staff, do what most MPOs do, and have some planning capacity inside, and then still consult when we need to. And we can turn the projects around faster that way. So to give you an example, we're at just around $500,000 for our planning grant. The Corpus MPO is at $522,000. And this is what their organization looks like. If you look at the bottom, and I've reached out and talked with about their organization. They have a planning director, they have a senior transportation planner, they have somebody that just does their IT and web admin, they have a GIS manager, and then a support person, office coordinator, and they currently have a vacant transportation planner position. So they have 6. They have a little bit more funding, and some of those positions that they funded are at a lower rate because they're not all planners. They have different duties. So with that, I just want to continue the conversation, and my recommendation is yes. In the future, that would be, I think that's a goal to move towards, is having an MPO director that's appointed by this board, responds to the board. Challenges with that are, as we discussed last time, the MPO doesn't get money and then spend it. It spends somebody else's money and then gets reimbursed. So the somebody else's money right now is the city. The city is the fiscal agent. So the city still could remain the fiscal agent under this scenario where you appoint its own director, but or you may be interested in asking the county to take over that responsibility of being the fiscal agent. What you wouldn't be able to do is just separate that fiscal agent off into its own organization. It always has to have a fiscal agent first. So there is some concern, I think, well, if the planning director and the MPO are the same, maybe we're using some of these MPO monies or funds, maybe we're using it for City of Laredo planning staff. I know that's a concern the county probably has. We very much meticulously have to account for the money we're spending. And if anything, the benefit is going the other way. The MPO is getting more staff support. They're getting the use of the building space for free. We're not charging, the city's not charging rent to the MPO. Their equipment as well, like our main printer, which the city pays for. So there are some advantages that the MPO is getting being housed by the city. Still, I think there is room as the MPO matures to have its own director that responds directly and a full-time director, because it's a lot to be both the city planning director and the MPO director. It's an exciting responsibility. I'm happy to be in it. But my goal is to get the staff on board, train the MPO staff so they can start doing a lot of these projects in-house, respond much quicker to inquiries that you have, staff that you'll have that you can assign tasks and projects. Get them trained over the next few years, and then they're in a position to turn it over to a director that you could hire, and he could take that on, he or she could take that on full-time. And I would remain as the planning director for the city. I think that's a good long-term plan.
Any
Of course,
thoughts or comments?
This has nothing, I want to preface by saying that this has nothing to do with the gentleman, Kirby, you have nothing, this has nothing to do with you, the person, as far as our director, our MPO director. I have no problems, actually, it's been pretty good since you've been doing a really good job, I appreciate it. But I don't understand why we have to wait a couple of years. I just think that those are little things that happen. I mean, just the same way that you came in not knowing much as far as a director, or I shouldn't say, not being coached or not being, taking some years to be able to bring you in. You've done an exceptional job. And so I just think that we just have to have a director that is autonomous from the city and the county, somebody that works for just the MPO board. That's my feeling. That's why we have the monies. As far as the reimbursement, as far as housing them, we don't have a problem. If the city of Laredo has a problem with it, we don't have a problem sharing whatever we need to share. And I speak that because I know we've discussed the last meeting here. So I do have a problem with it waiting a couple of years. I don't understand why we have to wait so long, but that's my position on it.
Any other thoughts or comments?
Yeah, Mayor, I mean, I think I brought this up last time, but I would like to see that director, again, it's nothing on you, Vanessa, anybody here. I don't mind sharing the personnel, because I don't think there's that much work. I'm not sure. I mean, I'm sure Vanessa probably got her hands full, but I mean, 2 full-time positions, I'd like to always have a little money in reserve in case we do need that consultant, because here we gave you all the money, we have no money left if we need something that's gotta be outsourced, so,
well, if I can, just to answer some of those questions. There is a lot of work. What the model we've been following is we've been asking consultants to do that work. We pay a premium when we ask consultants, because when we have to bring them down here.
yeah, you made that the thing, so.
Yeah, so there's a cost that, and there is a lot of work, and we don't get the work as quickly as we had staff.
But also, sometimes you're asking for expertise, and I just say, we can hire planners, planner 2, planner 3s. That doesn't mean they have the knowledge or expertise to go out and do that job. If you want to do that traffic study or this light synchronization or whatever it is, I don't think your planner 3s can do that.
That's the other thing I wanted to speak to. We have a large reserve that we're not spending all of that reserve. We still have that reserve there. And we're not, even if we filled all these positions, we're not using up all of our planning grant we get each year. We're just spending up 80% of it so that we have a reserve that slowly builds on top of the reserve, the chunk, the $1 million plus that's there that we're not proposing to use, that we won't use this.
I just
We've got
think I echo the judge's sentiment. It doesn't need to be today, but I think it's going to be sooner than later.
And you could apply. As the MPO director.
Don't you take them away from us.
Hey, it's for all of us, you see what I'm saying?
No. We worked real hard to get Kirby as our planning director. Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yeah, let me just follow up a little bit. So this planning director would he have the same benefits that you have? Who would provide all of that for him?
That's what he said, the granting agency.
Need a fiscal agent.
The fiscal agent, either the city or the county.
So the city would, I'm sorry?
Well, above and beyond what the typical benefits are with a municipal employee, of course, that could be up to the board to decide if you want to give anything additional to what we typically give when we hire an employee, the retirement system.
Yes.
So I'm kind of somewhere in between Commissioner Galos and the judge's position and where you are, I see the logic of, hey, you came in, guns blazing, right out the gate, right? And so if you can do it, certainly, Ms. Guerra can do it, and the staff can be developed, kind of, in-house. At the same time, I see the wisdom of what you're saying, which is, hold on, let's build that team out so that we're not so dependent on consultants. Because historically, as a city as well, because we are on the frontier, so far from civilization, it seems like at times that we don't have a pool of applicants to select from and then develop. It was just always, very consultant heavy. And we're currently, I think, seeing the benefits at the city, not just in your department, but in other departments as well, where we've just decided to make a human resources investment and begin to groom and prepare and certify our own human capital so that we have that agility when an issue pops up. And so somewhere in between is there a way to accelerate that process? I know we've been dealing with, and you and I have had this discussion as it relates to internally within your own department. We've hired this very capable human resources professional from the private sector, and given some of the complexities with hiring at the city, a lot of the hires aren't happening as efficiently as we would like them to happen. That's my statement, not yours. But how is it that the MPO, through the same kind of HR rubric, can begin to fill these positions sooner rather than later?
It is just the challenge of recruiting and bringing down to this location, given the challenges that you brought up. We don't have the same pool that we would have size and background as if we were from the Dallas metro area. It's just a lot larger.
Is that why you're saying we need the time to be able to do that?
Yes, it's going to take time to recruit, to fill out all these positions, and then also to fill them and train them and give them their role.
And then the staff development.
Yeah, because some of the responsibilities change when you get new people in, because expertise has changed. So once we have basically whatever you recommend, whatever you decide, of course I'm gonna do my best to fulfill that duty, whatever timeline you give it to me in. But you're also wanting me to give you a recommendation. My recommendation, based on my organization experience with planning departments across the country, would be, let's get a team in place and then turn that over to new management, rather than bringing in new management without even a team. And then have to start from scratch without the staff already there. That's a tall order. Not that you can't find somebody that can do it.
But if I may take a liberty here, and if I can read the county folks, and I know I've listened to the judge and commission, I think I kind of get what they're saying. Basically, they want someone, autonomous, independent. They possibly, and correct me if I'm wrong, perceive maybe it's too city slanted simply because that's the way it was structured and that's the way it was operated. It continues to be operated. So if my assumption is correct, I think they would want the new director, the independent, selected by all of us here to actually select, bring in new employees and train them.
Mayor,
Am I getting close to what you all are trying to get at?
no, I mean, it's difficult because of the scope of work, the type of work. I looked at, say the Army. The Army, right away, they wanted to hire an executive director, they wanted IT people, all this. I said, you're too small, you can't do that. I said, let us lend you what we have. And it was, I think that was the first chairman's problem, is that, he was trying to hire all these people, and he wanted, make this up and, this big enterprise, and I said, you don't have the projects, you don't have anything to keep it going. Here we're kind of backwards, where we got all the projects going and we don't have the director. And I was just thinking in my head, I said, mainly we probably need the first two positions, and then, like I say, probably outsource, whether it's the city, county, or consultants. Maybe we divvy up the money and just have the independent, and I don't know how it works, just thinking about it, but just the autonomous director and the executive director or some sort of assistant, and then rely on city planners, rely on county planners, rely on consultants, kind of split the baby. Because I don't think you have enough work for 3 planners that can be doing very specific work.
We have,
Well, I'm just saying, like I said, you go to light synchronizations, you go, maybe it's some sort of traffic study. I don't know what you can do with those planners and what you can't do with those planners. But what I don't like is to hire people and not see them work, Not have them be fulfilled, having something to do and look forward to every single day.
Well, if I may, Mr. Mayor, and I don't think any of us like to, have folks just standing around.
Well, no,
And right, and I get that, and I support, I agree with that statement 100%. And I know that wasn't the thrust of your point. I've seen and spoken with MPO/city planning staff over the years, and it seems like there's a ton of work. It seems like some of those gray hairs, Ms. Guerra, may very well be related to the
I didn't know when I started.
overwhelming amount of work. And just the fact, I think our own planning department is kind of a reflection of the MPO planning department, if you will, if such a thing even exists. And just for years, our planning director wasn't certified. The support staff didn't get recertified. There was just not an investment in long-term planning, transportation planning, mass transit planning, active transit planning. It was kind of like planning schmanning. It was a footnote. And so now we have a, card-carrying planner, a AICP, I believe is what the acronym is. And I can see the just the investment from in current staff and staff development. I see some new faces as well, and I see this shift in culture from the planning department to say, okay, and council, frankly, in the last budget said we need to put more money into the planning department and to allow you all to build up your staff, because it's been, if you look at a lot of the traffic issues that we're facing with today, the water issues, the sewage issues, if planning has not been a priority historically, at least in the last 9 years until you came around. And so now we're looking at the port, and we're looking at the airport, and we're looking at rail, and we're looking at perhaps Bridge 4-5. Like, we're looking at some really, the intermediate loop, outer loop. Like, we're looking at some pretty heavy lifts. And to just be reliant upon TxDOT, to just be reliant upon consultants, and to not be able to have some control over our own destiny, to me is a little disconcerting. I think that by having us, and I don't mean, and I think we've all been really great about not having this imaginary line of county versus city. I think everybody takes this really seriously, that it's one team and it's all of us, and whether it's MPO or a school district or whatever, the courts, the jail, the trash pickup, it's one team, one city, one community, one county. And so I know we don't have that imaginary line drawn, but I do know that if this MPO had its own set of staff that we could rely upon to have, to vet a lot of these issues, you know, for instance, we could have, if we had our own staff, they could have already approached Mr. Salazar at TxDOT and said, hey, yeah, the downtown blocks, you know, this is this and this is that, you know, just by
I don't
example.
disagree with you, I just don't know how much staff you need. Do you need one? You need two? You need two? Like I say, and I don't mind having 5 staff if they're gonna do part-time work for you. That's what I'm saying. So maybe we just hire, we give those FTEs to you. I don't have a problem with that. Maybe we just need the executive director and assistant executive director. I don't know. I'm somewhere in between.
In
Like I said,
yeah.
there's no line there. There's no, it's
Right.
county versus city. No, it's
No.
MPO.
And so I guess what I think I'm hearing, what I think I'm hearing is, okay, so what data do we have to, support, right, you know, the X number of FTEs, what's the best rubric, you know, for, you know, assembling that team? I kind of default back to, and this is, you know, a fault of mine, because I'm assuming, right? But I just personally default back to the fact that this is the biggest inland port in the United States. It happens to have an MPO that to address the different transportation complexities. My instinctive reaction is, of course, this MPO needs its own staff. And I think if we had our own staff, we would, you know, we would be accomplishing so much more. And I think we're doing great, but I think we
So when you,
could do a
yeah,
lot
when
better.
you said, you know, our own staff, basically the loyalty would be toward the director, and the director would be autonomous, or not with that
I don't really
word.
want to even use the word loyalty, but I would say that their mission is to support this MPO
Well,
commission.
again, so I'm not following. So when you say your own staff, so you're diverting from this policy where they're working for the city? Are you implying the same thing? Don't work for the city?
No. I'm saying perhaps there is, you know, obviously some overlap because we have a planning department. Y'all have a planning department, right? But maybe a wheelhouse that coordinates, you know, all of our collective planning activities. And maybe the better model would be to have, you know, MPO to have its own, you know, MPO staff and MPO director, and have there be some, you know, coalescence.
Be like a RMA type. In other words, very
Again, then
autonomous.
we're going back to the same thing. We're just separating it, and you're saying, oh, are we separating now or later? And
No, I'm trying to like bring together, is what I'm trying to say.
well, you lost me because you're talking about our own staff, and he's saying the staff is under the city.
Well, what I'm saying is this MPO should have a set of staff, and that staff should be
Well, I
actively
think that's what
planning.
we said, but again, I don't know. My question is, what can the staff do? What can a planner that works only for the MPO, what can they do?
So you're saying maybe start with 2, 1 or 2, and then
I don't-
see how that
Can
materializes?
can you use the city as a consultant? Can the city apply as a consultant? If you have 6 planners and we say, hey, we need to do this study, can we just pay the city to do the study?
We already do that, so if we
Okay.
need to grab more staff, but the problem is, right now, we don't have those staff. The city
I
doesn't
mean,
have.
and that's basically what we're doing here.
We
We're
could.
funding you that staff as an FTE.
Yeah,
Like I
every
say-
month we decide how much of each person's position is paid for by, but it's all, right now, we don't have extra staff to assign to the MPO. That's the advantage of where it is housed now, and I'm the director of both. I don't have to ask another director to do that. I can say, we need this person. Right now, that's what we're doing. 60% of our newest Planner 3's position is working on the MPO till we get longer-term MPO staff in
Well,
place.
how about this?
But can I just answer, you said,
Well-
what do we have to do?
Well, that was gonna be my question to you.
Yes.
If you were the MPO director and MPO director only, didn't have to do anything else, you and Vanessa, who else do you need?
These three positions account for areas that we're focused in. So you have a transportation planner, which is what Vanessa was before. She's now the.
Well, now we got her to,
But still very
Assistant
involved in
Director.
transportation planning. You have a GIS planner. We have so much GIS, we have so much data, but it's not organized. There is so much we could do with putting it online, making it accessible, analyzing that data. We talked about, you heard our consultant for the MTP talk about a model that they used.
we can't even get a GIS guy next door, so good luck.
Well, we are working on it. This would be a GIS planner, a planner who has a lot of GIS experience. Our planner 3 currently has a lot of, we were able already to get somebody who has a lot of great GIS experience. And then an active transportation planner, having somebody whose only responsibility, well, not only, but whose main responsibility is to promote active transportation, biking, bicycling, pedestrian access, transit, and focused on that, is a position where, that might be the only position where you need to be creative in the assignments, but it's only because we're so used to not a multimodal development, whereas the model I'm hoping to follow and the active transportation we're putting in place right now is going to recommend something like what San Antonio's doing, where they have a subcommittee for active transportation.
But active transportation under the MPO is just gonna deal with online stuff, or does that deal with just anywhere?
It's like bicycles, it's.
I know, it's your bicycle.
Oh, you mean
It would
on
be
system?
system and on system,
Yeah.
it would be for the
So
entire.
if I just say, you know, we're gonna do around the park here, so the MPO would be doing that now?
No, it's gotta be like commuting transportation
What I'm saying,
oriented.
so I don't think there's
The
that
city-
much
The city has a position
for a full-time
in
position.
the traffic department that's.
Can we continue this maybe
Yeah.
when we have the judge here and also,
Yeah, I mean,
the other?
We can go on forever. In the meantime, go with your plan. And like we say, we're gonna end up probably being 2 years down the road before we finally make a decision.
Thank you, Commissioner Gale. Keep an eye on us. And you know, the one thing that you have right now,
Wait, this is a fair question.
you have an MPO director you can hire and fire. If you want, at any time, you can get rid of me and get an MPO director. So it's not there. That option is there and you're considering.
We understand that.
I would say keep considering it and considering the work I'm doing to bring on staff, to get an MPO with staff that can do forward
I
planning, not just the compliance.
I really don't have any criticism with any of that. I'm just saying that what time do,
Yeah, where's the data that supports those moves?
like I said, I don't see the data that supports it independently. With doing 2 jobs, city and city and MPO, I have no problem because you're gonna keep them busy. But I think if we pulled, let's just say we pulled Vanessa to the side and say, all right, you're the new MPO director, here's your 3 staff members. Now they're gonna sit there and, okay, what do we do today? I don't know, what do you do? Let's go for coffee, okay.
Well, if I can, just for 1 minute more, the person who has the vast majority of experience, more than anybody else, about what the MPO responsibilities and duties are is
Hold
Vanessa.
on.
And I would like her to speak
Don't lose our
to
quorum.
all the work that's been done by consultants and all the work that hasn't been done because we haven't been able to get consultants on it and we don't have staff. Vanessa, to answer that question, do you think there is enough work for this staff that we've outlined?
Well, yeah, definitely.
Well,
We
then
have-
there's
we have
no
a-
reason to wait.
Because he's planning to do like the MTP, we would do that in-house. That's a 2-year effort. The model, it's another 2-year effort, full-time for one GIS person. And we've hired people continually to do all of that work for us.
How much did we pay for the MTP for it?
300, I think, 300,000.
300,000 could fund
plus-
one person's position for
Plus
more
the
than 3 years.
150,000 that we paid to develop all the data to feed into the model.
Okay, then you just,
So we're getting more for our money, bigger bang for our buck when we have our own staff and,
well, I'm saying, so then, okay, then we need to do it faster than not,
Okay, so then what, a motion to accept the plan staff,
No, this is what we already have.
it's just a presentation without,
you don't need any action?
No, but
We're gonna bring us some action next time?
we're gonna lose our quorum, so.
Yeah, cause I gotta get.
Well, we already gave them the money for this. We already
yes,
gave
this
them
was
the money.
already adopted, this was the work plan.
So
from
let's
last year.
proceed,
This is-
I guess,
We're proceeding with this.
Post
We're hiring-
haste.
We're hiring for these positions, yes.
All right,
Okay.
I got to get.
Yeah, we're gonna lose our quorum. We have no no RMA, right? So,
Yeah, the RMA, I think they provided a written
motion to
report.
adjourn.
There's a motion, second discussion, I've heard all those in favor say aye. Any opposed, none heard, motion carries unanimously, thank you.